Hey guys.
Hey, are we here? It's live. It says we're live.
Go ahead.
Just wanting to make sure, waiting for people to check in. Here we go. We got a few people coming on. This is the first time we've done this, so we're like not real sure when we were going to be there. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey, Johnny. Gonna wait just another minute or two for people to get on. Hey guys, so we're here again tonight for Celebrate Recovery Facebook Live. Remember that we're going to be here every day of the week. As long as this crisis stuff is going on, we're going to be here. My name's Sabrena. I'm a grateful believer and I struggle with codependency and food issues, and I am the National State Rep Trainer.
My name is Allen. I'm a grateful believer. I struggle with codependency and anger, and I just kind of help out on the national team, whatever I need to do.
Yes, he's a huge help. You guys may have seen us at conferences, and we sure are missing seeing you guys on those, but we cannot wait until we can get together at the summit, have a big old party, see each other again. We can't wait for that. So instead, as this stuff is going on, we want to make sure that we're here for you, that we're giving you content, things to check out. Make sure that you are checking out the Facebook page, the YouTube channel, and if you haven't heard anything about what we've been talking about the last week, make sure you go back and watch Friday's Facebook Live with Johnny and Jenny, where we had a very exciting announcement about what are being called CRCR open share groups. If you haven't been to the Celebrate Recovery page, you'll find a CRCR link, and this stands for Celebrate Recovery Crisis Response. And these groups that we're working on, that we're talking about, that we're trying to train people on, you can find out all about that there. And that Facebook Live is also there from Rodney and Jenny, so make sure you check that out. We have had already several people checking out the videos for training on Zoom. So if you guys have any questions about that as you're going through them, make sure that you're reaching out to your state reps. If you go to celebraterecovery.com and find your state rep, you can look for them on there. If you already have contact with them, make sure you're reaching out to them as you're trying to figure all this out. I've been talking a lot to the ministry leader at our own CR, and we're trying to figure all this out as well. We're taking it slow. This is one of the things I wanted to kind of touch on tonight is take it as slow as you need to with this. I was Rodney Holmstrom and I were training state reps the other day, and we were talking about what it feels like to put on that ministry leader hat as you're talking about this and thinking about these groups. Rodney said they're kind of doing like a test week this week where they have some of their leaders trying it out, and then they're going to look towards launching it actually next week. And so I think that's a great thing to do, to take it slow. It's not something that you have to feel like you need to rush into.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our ministry, our Celebrate Recovery, our local church was actually trying it out tonight. They have some of the leaders on there with our ministry leader, and they're kind of working through this to make sure that everything kind of works right, and then they get the feel for it before we actually launch it next week as well too.
Yeah, we're super excited about it. Nervousness is normal. There's nervousness with it as well. How's this going to work out? So we definitely want to hear from you guys. Like, give us feedback. Tell the state reps how it's going. If you need to have Zoom calls with them where they can kind of walk you through and help you with things, they'll do that. And if there's any questions or anything that they don't know how to answer, they'll get in touch with their regional director. They'll get in touch with us and get the answer that they need as well. We did these trainings the other day. It was about 4.5 hours worth of training, and we collected even questions from them that we're going to kind of compile and start like having FAQs out there about like how do I take care of this issue? This is a common question that's coming up, and so keep watch on that CRCR page at celebraterecovery.com so that we can start posting that stuff as well. But until you see that, your state rep is your greatest resource. You're going to have many of them on there tonight helping answer questions as well. And before we get into just, having some time of encouragement and talking about fear a little bit is what we're going to be talking about tonight. Just a couple of other things about groups and things as you're going through this crisis time, not being able to meet. Make sure that this is still not something where we're doing online. Our large group meeting is not going to be something that we do online. We're not doing CR lessons. That's a copyright issue, and so you're not supposed to be doing lessons online. But feel free to do devos and music and encouragement, whether it's at the same time you would normally meet, or you do it at different times during the week. But we have a suggestion not to call it like Celebrate Recovery Live, join us this week for CR Live, because we don't do online groups traditional for our main group, and so we want to make sure that we're not confusing people as they come on. Like, if a newcomer comes and they enjoy that time together and they think this is what a Celebrate Recovery large group meeting is about, it can cause confusion for them. So feel free to do those things, but just be careful in your language about how you're representing it. All right? Okay, so we're going to take a few minutes now. We're just going to talk about fear. So this is something that is super real right now, right? Maybe there's fear about the coronavirus in general. Maybe there's fear about finances that are going on in your home, about your job. Last week I was getting ready to fall asleep, and I was kind of in that twilight time between being awake and being asleep. Feeling great. My health hasn't been the greatest in the last few years. It hasn't been the worst, but it hasn't been the greatest. And I was laying there, I wasn't feeling great, and I was like, I have the coronavirus. I know I have it. And the day before I had sneezed and was, immediately that was the thought that went into my mind. And because I was in this twilight kind of place, I was feeling a lot of fear that this was truth. This was really happening. That's what was going on with me. And I fell asleep kind of feeling that way. And guys, I'll tell you, fear is not a big thing for me in terms of my circumstances. So fear about people, huge. That's always been a really big thing. Like, my codependency is about fear 100%. Fear of people getting angry at me, fear of people not liking me, having to have hard conversations. There's fear all wrapped up in that in terms of people. But with circumstances, I've always it's been easy for me to not have a lot of fear in that. So even with the coronavirus thing and what's going on in our country, I've not had a lot of fear with circumstances. And so that felt different and it felt overwhelming. And like I said, it was the reality of how I was feeling. So fear is a real thing. It's a human response to things that are going on in our lives, right? That is a valid thing. And it's something that we need to talk about. We need to process. We need to, connect with our safe people. Make sure that we're doing that during this time, and that we're using our tools and we're working our recovery to kind of get through that. We need to challenge our thinking and not be shaming ourselves or other people through that. I don't know about you, but for me, if I'm thinking counter to the way I think I should, then it's like, you don't have enough faith, or you shouldn't be thinking that way. And I see this kind of stuff even on Facebook, where people are kind of, challenged by all of that. And this is not a time to be shaming ourselves or other people about how they're feeling, because fear is real. But one thing we don't need to be doing, we need to be sharing, we need to be talking about it. We need to not pretend like everything's great and perfect and like that, we don't have our ups and downs, right? But what we don't need to be doing is taking our frustrations out on social media, right? This is such a time for us to show the world what God is about, what He has for us, who He is, the fact that He's going to be here in this and that He's going to carry us through it, right? I love David for his example in this, in the Bible, in the Psalms. Like, he always starts out complaining, like, God, you've forsaken me. God, you're not here with me, being angry at Him, being frustrated, expressing his fears to God. But then in the end, he always ends up praising God and like, I feel angry, I feel frustrated, I feel these things, but you know what I know is that you love me. I know that you're there for me. I know that you're going to take care of me through this. And so I love his humanity, the example he gives us of his humanity in when he's feeling that fear. I can't, like I said, I don't deal with fear a lot myself in terms of circumstances, but this is something that you've you've definitely dealt with in your own, like his own recovery. So why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, for real. I mean, I know pre-recovery, there was a lot of times when just fear and anxiety would just capture me and just keep me sometimes paralyzed. Just thinking about, that I would always get to a place of, if something was happening at work or at home, maybe a project I'm doing around the house isn't going too well. But then I would get into this, or something at work, like I said, with a job situation, and get into this feeling of, woe is me, and fear would just take over, and that anxiety, and I'd start spiraling down, and the thinking that would go along with it, that just, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. I remember one time we had some car issues a while ago, and thinking about it, like, okay, it's going to cost this much, and I can't pay that much, and that means I'm going to have to work extra, or we're going to have to cut back here, and and all these things. And I would just stay stuck in that for days at a time sometimes, and then before I could come out of it, and then just, till the next thing came along, or maybe something else better came along that kind of lifted my spirits and stuff. So staying stuck in that fear was very real for me. And then, of course, through the process of recovery and working through Celebrate Recovery, man, what a difference. I mean, fear still happens. I still experience it. I still get anxious a lot. But now that the tools and steps and everything that I've worked through with Celebrate Recovery, I know now that I can challenge the way I think, and I can take a step back. I do that a lot. I always talk about that, taking a step back, taking a breath, and just kind of relaxing for a minute, and then talking to myself, okay, what's really going on here, and then reaching out to my accountability partners, my sponsor, my step study brothers, and just, hey, this is what's going on with me today, and then getting encouragement back, or even having a talk on the phone with them as well too. And it makes a difference, and it's been a big difference in the way that I think. I don't go down those roads of just staying stuck in negativity and stinking thinking for periods of a time. I can work through it, and just keep moving forward. But
right.
Fear is real, and
you've been feeling it still a lot with what's going on, right? Like,
yes.
With work, he works for Delta, and so there's been several times that we've been through situations where layoffs have happened. He's been working for him for 30 years or longer, and so that fear is real, because how what did you say, how many flights are
I mean, across the whole country, flights are being cut and stuff, so there's a lot of, like, we're down almost 75% of what we were flying, and so there's a fear there, like, I know we're going to get through this, and get to the other side, but then my fear is like, okay, so what is it going to look like at the other end? How long is it going to take for people to start flying and stuff like that? So that fear is there, and that anxiousness, but we were talking about last week when we were talking about this, I said, I was worried about this a little bit, and I said, but I'm also kind of excited because of the new things that are going to come out of this, the good that's going to come out of this. I think about, of course, in Celebrate Recovery, all the connections and everything that's going to happen, and the things that that are going to happen as a result of this. But even in my job, what's going on, like, what are the new technologies? What's something that's going to come out of this? And I never would have thought that before.
No.
Never, never, never. It would have been just negative the whole way, and whoa, we're done. We're going to be living on the street in 6 weeks.
Yes.
That's the way it was.
Yeah. So, that's a big thing for me too right now, thinking about what will come out of this. Johnny talked about this last Friday, where he was saying, just because it's not that all good is going to happen in the context of this or in the middle of this, but the good but God is, promises that he can turn all things for good. And so what is the good that he's going to bring out of this? I think one of the most amazing things is going to be the level of connection that we have, both, around the world, across the country, with each other in our local ministries, because we have so increased our level of making sure that we're talking to each other on a regular basis, that we're connecting with each other day by day, and so I think that the connections we have are going to be stronger, but we're also going to be we're going to be so excited about being together once we can be together again. And so just the level of support, I've seen it for myself with the people that I've been talking to, that, as I'm reaching out to my support system, please pray for me right now. I need you to pray. And it happens immediately. I get those responses. And so I have people that I can go to, and this just confirms it for me going through this situation. You know?
I was thinking too that, when we're talking about when we finally do get back together again, when churches are be able to open back up and we can get together, I think the connections and the things that we're experiencing right now. I was just thinking about this earlier today, that there's a lot of us that take our recovery meetings kind of like for granted, that they're there every week. We go every Thursday night, and for our groups, and we have complacency, but that old saying, you don't know what you miss until it's taken away from you.
Right.
And so now when we get back to these groups, I think there's going to be those places are going to be packed out. It's going to be such a, that first night back is going to be really, really good. And I'm looking forward to that. And I know that's coming. But man, that's going to be really cool.
Yeah. I love, the memes that I've seen online about, this is where we see and we know that the church isn't a building, that it's the people, that it's the brothers and sisters in Christ. And we are, this is what we can shine in right now. And so I want to make sure I'm doing that it's about that I'm focusing on God. I'm keeping my focus on him. I see some of the examples of responses on social media as we're going through this crisis in our country, and I can see extremes that happen. Allen and I have talked a lot over the years about the Pendulum Principle is what I call it. So in my recovery, for example, in codependency, I was always in one extreme where I was like people pleasing and taking care of people, never being like disagreeing, not saying what I felt or needed. And so I'd be in that extreme. When I started recovery, I swung to the other side, where for a while it was like, no, and, being very extreme in it, because I didn't know how to have balance in my struggle. And I didn't know, in fact, I felt like sometimes when I would try to get balance, I would kind of be pulled back to the other side. And we struggle with that even now, because, his struggle is with anger and control, mine is with codependency. And so that pendulum would swing and we would trigger each other in that, it was just, it was difficult. And so I see some of that in relation to this pandemic, that we have people that, so on one side, there's a lot of like full on fear and panic.
Buying all the toilet paper.
Hoarding, yes. Exactly. And this is one of those guys. He doesn't do it. He didn't do it because of the pandemic, but he likes to make sure he's covered. That didn't sound right.
No, yeah.
yes. But so we've been able to spread the the joy around with the toilet paper. But hoarding is one of those things that comes out of that panic, right? And that extreme reaction to that. Depression can be one of those things that, that panic and that fear can cause. Spiraling thinking, Allen was talking about that. I always say that, being in the vacuum of my own mind, all that's swirling around there is a lot of junk that's not really good. And if that's where I stay, I love the way that Mac Owen has put it, I'm in a bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
If the only place I am in is in my own head, and what I'm trusting is my own thinking, and because my own humanity and my own fear, and Satan, kind of getting in there and going and, stirring that up and just wanting to strengthen that in me. so that spiraling thinking can happen from that. You've talked about kind of being paralyzed, right?
Yes.
When that fear happens.
Yes, and getting to a point where like I feel like I can't do anything, I can't move, and just stuck there, you know, and just staring out into space or staring into my phone or something, you know. That's when I realized, like, okay, I got to take a step back. I got to call somebody. I got to text somebody. I got to connect. I got to get out of this.
Right. And we see you know, with that extreme, you know, ranting and stuff that comes on social media, because in both of those extremes, the other side of that extreme would be indifference to me. Like, you know, if we have faith, we don't need to change anything we're doing. We don't need to worry about it. We're going to be good. You know, everybody's overreacting. And honestly, I was one of those in the very beginning of this that felt the same way. Like, people are overreacting to this. You know, it's not as big of a deal as they're making it. And honestly, I don't know. I'm not that smart. I don't have all the information, right? And so I have to trust the people that are in authority over me. I have to trust the people that know more than me about this stuff. And so I don't want to be in a place that's in either of those extremes, right? I don't want to be in panic and fear, and I also don't want to be in a place of indifference, you know? So kind of what I've thought about is like, you know, finding balance in this. How do I find balance in it? And so for me, I started thinking about fear and two things. That number one, fear is a liar, and number two, fear is my friend. Yeah?
Yes.
So the lying part of that is that a spirit of fear is not from God, right? This is something that the Bible is clear that is not of God. Ephesians 6:12 tells us our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realm. This is where our struggle lies, and this is where fear comes from. Satan uses circumstances to prey on our fear. When I felt what I felt last week, I woke up the next morning and I knew that what I was reading on social media, what I was seeing with other people's responses, what I was hearing from other people was feeding my fear. It was like feeding the monster, right? We've talked about how when that fear would be happening with Allen and he would be spiraling, he just wanted me to join him there. It somehow made him feel better.
Dragging you down with me in the pit.
Right. And so
I won't be there by myself.
We can't let that happen in this situation. We can't let what we're seeing, what we're reading, what we're hearing from people drag us down and allow Satan to kind of creep in and, you know, prey on those fears that we have going on. So, so the other side of this is fear of the Lord. That is where fear is my friend, right? Fear of the Lord means that I have an awe, I have a reverence for him, I have a respect. I know my place in this world, that I don't have control over it, that he does. That this isn't a surprise to him. You know, this happening isn't something that took him by surprise.
Yeah.
He knew this was coming, and he's still in control.
Absolutely.
And he's still here with us, and he's never going to leave us through this. And he's going to be there on the other side of it, right? Doing the things that we talked about, turning things for good. So I can trust in that. And that's what I want to give other people, right? When I'm talking about what we're talking about on social media and how we're, you know, showing the love and the grace and the power of God in the way that we're responding to people and talking to people and not getting ourselves, you know, tied up in this panic and anxiety and or the indifference on the other side of it. And it's no big deal, right? This is something that we can give to people when we are, you know, on social media, when we're talking to them. Like, there are going to be newcomers all over the world that are seeing what's going on here, and they're going to latch on to this if we can give them hope and we can show them what it is that, you know, we have as our foundation. And it's that we're going to be okay through this one way or another. You know, God is going to take care of us.
Been watching as we're getting close to the end here in a little bit, but we'll try to answer a few comments and questions. So been watching, trying to see some of the comments. Some of you guys are talking about you tried Zoom meetings already with some of your leaders. I know one that said there was awkward, but it was awkwardly successful, so that's cool. But hey, it's working though, and I think that's a good thing to do, is to try it out with your leaders and stuff, to try to make sure you have the bugs worked out before you kind of roll it out to your groups and stuff when you're doing your open share groups. And then I saw somebody else asked a question about is Zoom only available on Apple? And
No, absolutely
any
not.
platform,
Yeah, because I have mostly Android stuff, and I use it on my phone, which is an Android phone, and absolutely, it's available to anyone. In fact, and you can use it on your computer, actually, on the web, straight from the web. So you can download the launcher and the app to your computer, or you can just use it straight online. So I love that about it. It means that you can kind of access it from anywhere. And there's a lot of tools that are more useful when you go online, but you're able to do it wherever you are on your phone.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good comments in here about that you guys have been doing and having success at it. So that's really, really cool. And then someone asked too, where can they find the training for some of the Zoom trainings?
Okay, awesome. So if you go to CelebrateRecovery.com, there is an image right in the middle of the screen that says CRCR, Celebrate Recovery Crisis Response. And you click on that and you'll see YouTube training video, or not YouTube, I'm sorry, Zoom training videos. You'll see a link that you have to click on there as well and go to that. So these are Zoom videos that I made, but there are tons and tons of videos and articles and things like that on the Zoom support page. The reason I did these videos is because I went through and talked about things in the context of Celebrate Recovery. So you can get a lot of basic videos from Zoom, but we're talking about what is the best way to use it safely in our own, in these CRCR open share groups specifically. So for example, one of them is just about settings. And so we're suggesting things like turning off chat, because we don't want people chatting while we're doing the groups. That would basically be crosstalk, right? And it would be distracting to those who are sharing. We absolutely recommend turning off everything that has to do with recording anything, because these are not going to be recorded. So that's just a couple of the examples that I give. But feel free to go back and forth between those, and just if you go to the Zoom website, up in the right hand corner there's a support button. If you go to the support page, like I said, there's just tons of information. You can type in anything and you'll have all kinds of information there. But be sure to check out the ones that we did. Now there was one on breakout rooms that I had some issues with it apparently, and so we removed that one. I'll put another one out there. We're going to put a link just to the basic video from Zoom. But again, with that one, I watched the video and would stop it at certain points and make suggestions to help us keep these groups as safe as is possible.
Safe as possible.
Yeah, so one of the things we talk about is that we still feel online groups are unsafe, but we're doing everything we can to make them safer and as safe as is possible in this time.
Yeah, in this time, yes. So when we get released, so to speak, when we get set free again, we're able to congregate and all that stuff, then these groups will go away. The CRCR groups will go away, and we'll go back to meeting face to face, because that's just the best, safest option as well too. So somebody was asking about 12-step groups.
No, so at this time we're just doing the CRCR open share groups, not doing step studies. We kind of want to see how this goes. Get this part of it figured out. In step studies we tend to go even deeper into our sharing. So, let's try with open share groups and see how that goes before we even think about that. One of our state reps, when we were training them, one of the things they said they're doing is their CR is going to do the CRCR open share groups, but then with her step study specifically, she's also going to meet with her step study and do the CRCR open share format as well, so that she can continue connecting with her step study sisters and continue having a time with them. I've said, have them continue working in their books. You guys are doing that, right?
Yeah, we're doing that right now.
Yeah, you work your lessons as you would have, and if if you want to call anyone in the group and kind of talk through like, hey, something came up with me as I was answering this question today, and I just wanted to like chat about it.
Yeah.
That's not doing a step study. So that's a great way to keep connecting to what you're doing and keep doing that work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have you guys met yet?
Not in a step study, or we haven't. Our step study group hasn't met in a Zoom, but we use a group me to keep in contact, and we've been checking in with each other every day. Somebody will usually start the chat and say, "Hey, what's going on?" and everybody will start responding and stuff. Today, I actually did call a couple of guys and talk to them too, see how they're doing and stuff, and we had some good conversations. And just staying connected during all this time, and it's pretty cool. We have this technology that we can stay connected.
Yeah.
But finishing up on the fear stuff, if we stay too much connected with the technology, want to read the news, read what's going on, what's the latest stats and all that stuff, and man, I got to put that away for a while and just get some real conversation with some people to kind of stay out of that fear stuff and not worry about what's going on in the world right now, because I can't control it.
Right.
And,
right.
I got to let it go. So.
Right. Absolutely. But still be as safe as you possibly can. Take the precautions that you're asked to take, so that we can get through this and get past it as quickly as possible. Like we don't want this to stretch out any longer than it has to, right? So just be safe and take care of yourselves. Do we have any more questions?
No, I think that's pretty good.
Okay.
And then I know there's a lot of guys on here, a lot of the state reps and national team, regional directors and stuff answering questions and stuff too. So, I think we're good. We're good.
Yeah, we need to wrap up. It's about that time. So, guys, we just thank you so much for being here. We'll continue checking out the comments, and if you have prayer requests,